happy Sunday if you are still in Sunday, wherever in the world you are, but happy Monday if it's Monday for you. Let's do a wrap up of what was going down this week. During my last podcast, the scandal with the royal money and rentals was pretty much unfolding as I was doing the podcast. So we're going to get into that today. And yeah, I have a few things to say about this because I've said this already before, but I'm going to dig further into this today. At the end of the day, if you want a monarchy, you agreed to fund these people's lifestyles. If you want a reformed monarchy, you should have campaigned for a reformed monarchy some time ago. Republicans has been asking for that for some time. You didn't want to listen. You called them unpatriotic, all types of things. You should have, and I'm talking to the royalists here. I'm not really talking to people in this space. You can't all of a sudden get mad now about the royals not paying rent. Of course they're not going to pay rent. They don't work. With what money are they going to pay rent with? They're either paying it from the money of the land ownership that they have, which they're allowed to have because you have a monarchy and you agreed to one, or from whatever money they're getting from the taxpayer, no? So what's the solution then? Would the solution not be to just get rid of the monarchy? I am talking to the royalists here. I'm not talking to us in this space. If you don't like paying for these rich people's lifestyles, and if you don't like them living in these houses, well, then you just can't have a monarchy. And also, the people who are acting brand new and mad about all of this, they're also some of the same people who would be mad at Harry and Meghan, who are now making their own money, or Harry and Meghan that wanted to be half in, half out, make their own money and serve the monarchy. So I hope for the royalists now, who are so offended at everything that Harry and Meghan were doing, wanted to do and are doing now, I hope you're finally getting it. In the modern era, royals should work, do actual work, not just this surface level show up and smile and wave here and there kind of work. Like, I hope they're finally getting it. We've been getting it. So all of this news coming out about, the royals aren't paying rent, or they're paying peppercorn rent. I'm just like, well, what? What? Isn't that the point of having a monarchy? I'm confused as to why some people are mad. Because the logical conclusion is, if you're so mad about it, get rid of the monarchy, no? You tell me in the comment section. You tell me if I'm crazy. All right, first thing I just wanted to say before we get into the British royals, I want to say thank you and my condolences to someone I consider a real royal, a real queen. Miss Makanga, who was the founder of the Mobo Awards. Growing up, I think I didn't really appreciate how hard it was for Black artists in the UK. And we had amazing acts. Mystique, who's a UK girl group, they've recently rebanded. They're doing a show at Wembley. Women like Alexandra Burke. We had quite a lot of actually black pop girl groups. Cleopatra, Beverly White. we had quite a few amazing black artists back in the day. Samantha Mumbad, Javine. But I feel because of the climate in the UK, because of the British press, because of the way we treat success in the UK, those groups, I'm trying to think of some guys as well. JLS, oh my gosh, JLS dance their asses off, sing their asses off, way more than One Direction. But because of the climate in the UK, they just never really became the stars that, in the way that American stars do. But Mobo really gave black artists a platform, a space, and a platform and a space to shine. So my condolences to its founder, Kanga King. She passed away after a courageous and battle with colon cancer. 30 years ago, Kanga King remortgaged her home alone without institutional backing or industry support to build a stage that would transform British music forever. She was a single mother from Kilburn Council Estate who was told that black music was too niche, that there was no market and the industry was not interested. Instead of arguing, she built. 6 weeks later, the first MOBO Awards was broadcast to the nation and nothing was ever the same again. Yeah. And MOBO, really, you looked forward to it every year. Some years it was, even though they didn't have as much funding as the Brit Awards, which is like our version of the Grammys, it was 10 times as spicy, 10 times way more fun. And those of us that used to watch, like, there's certain performances that really stand out in your mind. I remember when Soul Solid Crew performed at the MOBO Awards. That's one that really stands out to me. Even Beyonce, like at the height of her Dangerously in Love era, she performed Crazy in Love. So it was always a good show at the MOBO Awards. What Kanga created was never simply an award ceremony. It was an act of cultural justice. MOBO did not just celebrate black music, it legitimized it, amplified it, and transformed the cultural landscape of the UK. From Stormzy, Olivia Dean, Ray, Craig David, Miss Dynamite, Kano, Sade, Krypton Conan, So Solid. Generations of artists have benefited from Kanga King's village. She built a platform that reached hundreds of millions of people around the world. She was awarded a CBE and received an Ivors Academy Honor in 2025, and she never stopped. She never asked for permission. She never accepted the word no was final, and we need more of this in the UK. In 2026, MOBO Awards held the organization's landmark 30th anniversary year. Will be dedicated entirely to her memory. Absolutely rest in power, Kenya. Rest in power. And I hope that there will be many more Kenyas over the years. We need that in the UK. I feel like you have that in the US. The NAACP Awards, got the BET Awards. You've got a lot more platforms, I believe, in the US. But just wanted to pay that respects because what an amazing platform and organization that she built. All right, to the royal news. Where should we start? Let's start with actually what's going on with all of this. Actually, let's start with this royal wedding that we had over the weekend. Let's start with this because, honey, the frocks were frocking. The frocks were frocking. Apparently, Kate's ex was there. I don't really know anything about Kate's exes, but one of them appears to look like Roger Federer. Discord is saying, now the flirting with Roger Federer makes sense. She has a type, but she wanted the crown so bad and that's what she was groomed for. I mean, the gentleman is certainly far more handsome than William. Still has all his hair. And doesn't look like he has rage issues. I don't even understand. I don't even think that Kate or the Middletons truly understood what it is that they were getting themselves in for, trying to get into this Windsor royal family. Because when you have other people who actually grew up within the aristo class, when you have other royals in other countries that want nothing to do with this family, why would you set your daughter up to come into this Windsor royal family? These Mountbattens, these Batty Mountbattens. Why? Okay, hindsight is something we wish we all had, but I feel like if you had actually sat down and really thought about it, the royal family was always heading, maybe not for disaster in the way that they've thrown themselves into because of the way that they treated Meghan, because of the way that they let, Andrew's behavior slide, but they were certainly heading for a place where they would just slowly become irrelevant. But the scandals had been building. So it just doesn't make sense the way that the Middletons pushed so hard to get their daughter and their family into this train wreck of an institution. They could have just latched on to some other aristos and lived a very happy life. Because now I know that the money would have been a huge part of them getting into the royal family. But now you've got William selling off the assets. And now you've got scandal after scandal after scandal. Wasn't worth it, in my opinion. Anyway, there's Kate's ex, way more handsome than William. And they all showed up 2 by 2 for this wedding. What do we think of the frocks, y'all? I just don't understand what it is with this particular style and the royals. Like, it's always giving Mary Poppins cosplay. You can still dress very classy and modern. This is why they be copying Meghan, because what is this even? Um, the bride at this wedding wore a veil, which struck me because there was all of this debate about, should Meghan wear a veil because she's a divorcee? And I believe that this is the second time for both of these individuals getting married. But there was a whole debate about um whether or not Meghan should wear a veil. The particular line from Harry's book, there had been spirited arguments in the back corridors of the palace about whether or not Meg could or should wear a veil. Not possible, some said. For a divorcee, a veil was thought to be out of the question. But here you have Harriet Spurling marrying Peter Phillips, both divorcees. But veils and tiaras were a problem. Veils and tiaras were a problem, but Andrew can ride in the front seat going to the church and lead the family into the church. The double standards of this ridiculous family. Despite all of the scandal around the royal rents, which we'll get into in a minute, and Beatrice and Eugenie, not that I think that they should get off scot-free or anything, not that I'm defending Beatrice and Eugenie, but it seems like the media have put them front and center of this whole thing as a scapegoat. But Beatrice and Eugenie nonetheless were invited to this wedding. I saw the pictures of the crowds and it was less than 100. Less than that. But the British media was hailing this another royal wedding of the century. We already had that. Blacklight. Oh, hey, Blacklight. You said they look homely, but Kate looks like Mara Gulch from The Wizard of Oz. Mara Gulch from The Wizard of Oz. Is this from the recent film Wicked? Because I still haven't seen it. Because I have no idea who Mara Gulch is. Lottie said, well, William didn't want Harry to marry Meghan at the wedding, but look who he has to look at. I mean, he has to look at himself. I would say Kate's pretty average in terms of like women in the UK. Like, she just looks like the average woman in the UK. Comparably, Kate is better looking in this couple. William has to look at himself in the mirror. I'm still on that one show that said she's one of them while trashing Meghan for doing the same. Exactly. Okay. So let's have a read of this scandal. So on Thursday, the National Audit Office, Britain's National Audit Office, released a report about royal residences and how much it cost the British taxpayer to lavishly house all of these royals and royal adjacents. There are several storylines, but one of the biggest and loudest is that Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have never paid any kind of rent on their London homes. Since both women were in their early 20s, they've had London homes. Eugenie in Ivy Cottage, the Kensington Palace complex, and Beatrice in St. James's Palace apartment. All of this time, and neither of them has paid a dime. Now this is despite carrying out no royal duties. Princess Eugenie, 36, lives at Ivy Cottage in Kensington Palace, and Beatrice, 36, has an apartment in St. James. A report by public spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, unearthed some of the cozy details that working and non-working royal, none of them work, royals have benefited from when it comes to housing. The findings also reveal that both princesses also benefited from reduced rental rates from old market valuations. Neither of them are a working royal, and neither receives funding from the sovereign grant, which is paid from the Crown estate profits. Instead, their rent is covered entirely by Charles through the Privy Purse, funded by income from the Duchy of Lancaster. Until this year, Eugenie's rent was based on a 2018 valuation, while Beatrice's was based on the 2020 valuation. Beatrice's rent for her 4-bedroomed St. James Palace apartment was apparently held at 20k a year, which was entirely paid for by the monarch via the Duchy of Lancaster. Same with Eugenie and Ivy Cottage, although those Kensington Palace cottages are almost always rent-free. Yeah, even Victoria, I lost my eyelashes arbiter for some time, lived in Kensington Palace rent-free because her father, Dicky Donkey Sanctuary arbiter, used to work for the Queen. They're given out as grace and favour homes to staff and minor royals, and in the past, family members of senior staff. It sounds to me like actually Beatrice and Eugenie's apartments were probably nicer than Harry's Nottingham cottage. Like a whole St. James Palace apartment. So how come Beatrice and Eugenie were even given nicer apartments than Harry's place? I don't believe Beatrice and Eugenie were living in an apartment that you could barely even stand up in. Also, there seems to be quite a few empty royal apartments and cottages in London. Like, I don't think most people actually care that Beatrice and Eugenie have homes and royal property. It's that they're not really paying for those homes. But again, it's like, well, I feel like this is a conversation we should have had almost 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. Oh, interesting. This could also explain why there was so much briefing from Kate and William's side about them paying for, certain parts of their housing, renovations. No, last year, William and Kate announced that they were moving to Royal Lodge. And at the time, they had spent 3 years living in the smallish Adelaine Cottage, which is a 4-bedroom home closer to Windsor. And they spent years trying to convince everyone that they needed Royal Lodge, which was then leased by Andrew, or for, I think it was Fort Belvedere, which is still being leased by the Weston family. And then ended up moving to Forest Lodge, a much larger manor on the edge of Windsor Estate, subsequently evicted several people from close by cottages, and then grabbed 150 acres of public parkland. Anyway, as part of the national audit of royal property, we now know that the Crown Estate paid for the 400,000 worth of renovations to Forest Lodge before William and Kate moved in. So William and Kate themselves did not pay for it. But again, I will say, William and Kate themselves cannot pay for it because they don't work. I really think we need to change the way we even talk about royal money. There is no transparency about royal money, and I think there's a lot of propaganda even in the way we talk about royal money. We're trying to decipher, who's paying rent, which royals are paying rent, but they don't work. They're either getting money from some kind of duchy or from the sovereign grant. The point here is that these people, in conclusion, these people need jobs. They need actual jobs to actually pay their rentals. And if they had actual jobs, they would not be able to afford rentals in these homes. So the Crown Estate sank almost 400,000 into the Windsor home to make it suitable for the royals. This means that the renovation costs alone exceeded the average property value in London, in England, not in London, in the whole of England, which is just under 300,000. So the repair costs were broken down into the main Georgian property, which was almost 200,000, for heating, plumbing, and structural repairs. 2 stable cottages used for living staff, which costs almost 150 in total. A third stable cottage is also included in William and Kate's lease, but it did not require works to be carried out as the previous tenant did not leave until January 2026 of this year. And this marks the second set of changes carried out at the home in the past 3 decades. I mean, this is a place that was constructed in the 1700s, so yeah, it needed a little bit of a glow up. And they already had renovations back in 2001, which cost well over $1 million. Mind you, Kate and William never said that they were financing the costly renovations themselves. Instead, they centered the entire storyline in their briefing around the fact that Forest Lodge is their new forever home. That's the way they very cleverly worded their briefing. And that they deserved a grand manor because they had a rough 3 years, y'all. It was rough out here on these royal streets. And they made it sound like in all the briefing that moving to Forest Lodge was their only choice because they were so desperately sad and so desperately in need of more space. Very clever. Apparently somebody's falling for it. I actually feel like the 150 acres of public parkland being taken away is a much bigger deal. But somehow that story, I don't know, for those of you who are in the UK, have been away for a while, how did that story even go down? Because I don't really get the sense, other than the people who live in that area, I don't get the sense that there was a whole lot of anger about such a great amount of public land being taken away from people. I don't know. I guess maybe for some people, well, I don't live there, not my problem. But I actually think that's an even bigger scandal that seemed not to bother people. Um, um, Mrs. G said they knew months age about that housing story. They tried to deflect. Helen, you said since his mum died, Prince Harry was always treated unequally and was unloved by that wretched family. Yeah. They were trying to keep Harry down. They knew he had Diana Spark. And I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't the Queen have organized to give Harry somewhere else? Especially Beatrice and Eugenie had really nice apartments. Yeah, but there's no money for Meghan. Yeah, thank goodness I have a home in California and a very nice one too. T-Mac, the more I learn about these vile people, the more I want to vomit. And you know, we don't even know the half of it. I still believe that we don't even know the half of it. Helen, you said, the story was told about the land, then it disappeared without any annoyance or outrage. There you go then. There you go. Mind you, I was talking to one girl who's quite engaged in media news, and even she didn't know about it until I mentioned it. So there's been some interesting reaction to all of this on the talk shows. Let's have a listen to this. And also, while we're listening to this, I want you to really listen to the pathetic way they're trying to infantilize the royal family and trying to make it seem like, oh, this is a family in despair, and oh, won't you understand? Oh, wouldn't you want to help your family members? If it was your family members, you'd want to pay for things, right? Actually, no, let's start with, no, this isn't Jeremy Vine. This is something else, but we're gonna listen to this. This is a lady who rang into what's this, Matt Allright, and she absolutely was not having it at all. Let's have a listen to this.
I'm disgusted.
Oh, well, who with?
All the royals, to be quite honest.
Okay, tell me why.
They're Eugene and whatever her name is got married.
Yeah.
Her husbands have got money, so why on earth they get paid for nothing?
But
I've been married 55 years, and I've struggled all my life. And you see the likes of them dodging around, doing nothing, getting money given to them. The king should never be king because he was married before, she was married before. They were having an affair all the time. They were married. He should never have been allowed to be king.
Oh, gosh. Okay, we're going far into this argument then. But just on the issue of the family, I mean, do you not see the argument that this is an uncle who's fond of his nieces and he's, got the means to...
Yes, but they don't need any money given.
This is an uncle who's fond of his nieces. They're really trying to behave as if these are normal people. Think of your uncle, think of your niece. Or wouldn't you do the same for your uncle and your niece? Like, they're literally not at the top of the power pyramid of the entire country. Hilarious.
What? But do we know that? I mean, isn't it a private matter, even though they're royals?
They're married to multi-millionaires.
Yeah, but Anne, I'm sorry, isn't it the right of every person who is a parent or an uncle to decide what to do with their funds if they can make life easier for other members of their family? So we've all got that right.
Not the likes of them.
What do you mean the likes of them?
Anne, can I ask you a question? Anne, can I ask you a question? Is your anger directed at the situation or is your anger directed at the royal family? Because they're two different things.
No, they're not. They're both.
No, they're two different things. You can dislike the royal family, which you're entitled to, but you shouldn't let that colour your opinion on a very simple equation.
Why shouldn't that let that colour her opinion on this particular issue? And it's not simple. We're talking about the most privileged people in the country, the most protected people in the country, protected to the point where we can't even get a straight investigation whenever they're credibly accused of crimes, including rather heinous crimes. So trying to spin this into, it's just family members helping family members. This is the most privileged people in the country. The most privileged family in the country. Most powerful family in the country. Why is UK daytime, coffee time TV riding and dying for these people?
2 children, right? I could never afford to give them money for their houses.
But if you
had
could,
to work bloody hard for them.
But if you could, would you?
I'd help them if I could.
Well, that's what the King's doing.
There we go.
I mean,
by your argument,
I mean, they're actually trying to convince this lady who has worked her entire life. This lady sounds like who the average person in the UK is. Working class, worked their entire life. And they're actually trying to gaslight her into saying, oh, well, if it was your family member, excuse me, we're not the same. These are royals, not the average porridge-eating peasantry in the UK. They're not like us.
If any sense can see it, they're just hangers-on. Then there's 2 more hangers-on.
Well, look, plenty of people will agree with you that they're freeloaders, that this is hereditary freeloaders of the worst order. But I suppose your argument goes beyond the royal family. It's towards anyone with money. And are you arguing that anyone with money shouldn't?
Absolutely not. Now see the way that they're twisting the narrative. Now they're saying, oh, well, anyone with money. This is how they'll weaponize the argument to attack Harry and Meghan. Anyone with money. Mind you, they looked down on someone like Meghan for being self-made, for being an actress. So now they're trying to say anyone with money? Not everyone with money was born into wealth. And only the royal family were given that wealth because they were born into that family under the law of the land. So it's not even inherited wealth from a family that's, run a business for generations. We're talking about the royal family. They got their money and wealth from where? Exactly. So let's not forget that. And let's not try to compare the royal family to, the average self-made millionaire.
Shouldn't help out their family because you don't have money would be the sort of logical continuation of that argument. Is that what you're saying?
Wrong. You're saying it all wrong. I've got the royal... Sorry. Yes. Anyone can help their family if they can. But the likes of these hangers-on, they don't. You just said yourself that their husbands are millionaires. So where do they need help? They don't. They should be paying other people.
All right. Well, listen,
they should help out other people. There's enough homeless people in this country that need help, not the likes of them.
Yes. All right. Anne, appreciate your call. Thanks very much.
Amen. And tell that to William. Tell that to William. Right, let's go over to Jeremy Vine. This was what was happening over at Jeremy Vine.
They need security, and if the king is paying the rent of other royals using money from the Duchy of Lancaster, why should it bother
While you were speaking, Tessa called up important information on her phone.
I did. There's a couple of things we need to clarify. The Duchy of Lancaster, money from which we think the late Queen used to pay off Virginia Dufresne, who, of course, formerly accused the late Virginia, who accused Andrew. That money is not subjected to corporation or capital gains tax. The royal family make a big deal that it is subjected to income tax, but let's not pretend it's relative to other big businesses and equivalent portfolios. It pretty much
You want them to
untaxed.
live on chicken feed?
I do not want them to live on chicken feed, but I think we need to stop pretending that while they compete on a business...
See, again, it's this very strange trying to get us to feel sorry for a very, very wealthy family. You know, one of the interesting things that came out about Sarah Ferguson was that she used to get the royal staff to prepare her this giant banquet every evening, most of which would not get eaten. The amount of food waste from that. The nerve of him to say what he just said.
Level with other companies, it's not a level playing field for the royal family. And I think it's important to point out the king uses that money to pay his two nieces rentals in the centre of London in these very privileged properties. What I called up there on the telephone is what the royal family are saying to exempt this. Why is it two non-working royals are basically being funded by us, by money that otherwise should go into the national coffers?
Go on, tell me.
These two girls. They say that, and it's worth bearing this in mind, as the notes report, arrangement for properties managed by the royal household vary based on a number of factors to ensure residences, and this is the important bit, are filled appropriately depending on their location tenants. And now the reason why that matters is because the two properties the princesses live in St James's Palace and in Kensington Palace, are right in the heart of the working royals' households. So while Jeremy Vine will more like to cash, mate, I fancy that property in there in Kensington Palace. I can do a going rate. But actually, would they want Jeremy in there?
Let's not give too good an example.
But they'd rather have one of their own. And I think that's the point they're making.
Well, they might want me in there, actually, but I don't know. You're right, but why don't you?
I mean?
But if you're Prince William and you're looking at everything that's going on and you're thinking, I'm the next king, one of the things you've got to do is to... If you've got a spare room, you could put somebody who's homeless in it for a year, for example.
Yes, you could.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
But then you
don't like that?
We've been realistic about this. We're sounding like Jeremy Corbyn here. Didn't he suggest that we should fill Buckingham Palace with homeless people? This is just not going to happen. They're not going to...
Oh my God, like the way he's so disgusted by the idea of filling Buckingham Palace with homeless people. It's like he can't even fathom. Oh my goodness, the peasantry, the homeless peasantry in Buckingham Palace, like the disdain these people have for the average person struggling while putting the royals on a pedestal is unbelievable. I mean, I actually think putting homeless people in Buckingham Palace is a fantastic idea. It's definitely a much better use of it than it sitting empty. I mean, if you're not going to open it to the public and have it be somewhere where people can actually visit, it would actually generate money by itself if you did. Tea rooms, a place for, I don't know, civil weddings or whatever. It's got almost 300 rooms. Also, it's perfectly fine to put this family that has had its wealth passed down to it, whose wealth is stolen, it's perfectly fine for them to live in this Buckingham Palace. But God forbid we put homeless people in there? What a crazy idea. It's the disdain these people have for the average person while propping up the royals is crazy to me. Insane.
Open up royal residences for people like all of us around this panel and people listening and watching at home to go and rent there.
Okay, let's go. Remember, this is the reason this all come out is we can't really take Andrew out of it. It's because Andrew has suddenly exposed a flank which people who hate the royals are able to attack and endlessly, but also some people who are in the middle are thinking some of this stuff isn't right, you know.
I mean, mind you, it's not just the Andrew issue. There are so many issues. So many issues surrounding the royals. It's not just Andrew. And so many things that have been overlooked. I mean, Andrew's the top issue. In fact, the Andrew issue pretty much overrides all of the other issues. But I could give you 99 more.
The Queen's not around to be...
What is not right about this?
Okay. Well... let's also have a quick listen to, before I get on to the next thing. I don't think I have a picture of it, but Jeannie Bond, who's she's not an official royal Rotorap, but she is usually quite pro-royal. I've listened to what she had to say.
There is a public demand and a media demand for clarity on all the other properties, including, for example, Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. Much admired, important members of the royal family, but they too operate on the basis of a peppercorn rent on their vast mansion. They did put money up front, as did Andrew. It's clear we should say that. But they also rented out part of their property until a few years ago. And what they did with those profits, we don't know. And the point of all this is these are part of the Crown Estate. The Crown Estate is an independent commercial operation which must be run for profit, and that profit goes directly back to the Treasury. In other words, it's public money. And that is why there is public interest in exactly who pays what.
Mm-hmm. Listen, in conclusion, all around, we need more transparency on royal money. We need full transparency. And I think if we did deeper audits, a lot would come out. This is why they weaponized the place that Harry and Meghan were staying in, the cottage. It was all just a distraction. Anyway, enough of this. A couple more things I want to just finish with. I hadn't noticed that Kate was wearing so many Californian designers. So if we're not going to copy Meghan's style frock for frock, we're just going to start wearing American designers, while British labels are literally folding, the ones that Kate wears. So when Meghan wore Meghan, an American, wore American designers, parts of the press called her too Hollywood. Funny how that works. So Kate went to this event at Buckingham Palace that was held, well, actually, I don't know if it was at Buckingham Palace, but it was being held by Charles for Cancer Research UK. And she wore this red dress by Radarte. And that's a Pasadena-based label run by two Californian sisters. And people noted that this was the second American designer that Kate has worn in recent weeks. She has also worn Jenny Kane. Meghan is not only a fan of Jenny Kane. Jenny Kane was actually a sponsor, if you remember, on Meghan's Archetypes podcast. Either the Archetypes one or the Confessions of a was it Confessions of a Female Founder? One of the podcasts, Jenny Kane was actually a major sponsor, which is quite interesting. Meghan has even worn the same pleated skirt. If you look at the skirt, it's the same one that Meghan was wearing when she did her appearance on Emily Chang's Circuit. But Meghan wore a yellow version. Mind you, Kate and William have been hinting on a trip to the US. To do what? I don't know. As if Camilla and Charles's trip wasn't embarrassing enough. Oh, we all want to go and visit that orange monster. Before he finally goes to meet his maker. I mean, he's falling asleep. Trump is falling asleep in meetings now. I don't think he's too far away from meeting his maker. Mind you, I don't believe that Trump's maker is our God upstairs. I believe it's the clown down in hell. So last month, during her Italian trip, Kate wore Jenny Kane. And now she's stepping out in Rodarte. Guys, my cat is trying to jump on my keyboard. No, thank you. You're just going to have to sit there. Thank you. Back so. Sit down, please. I know, back so, you're outraged about Kate as well. I mean, I remember some of the outfits. Business Insider, not even a tabloid, had some headline about Meghan's 8 most controversial outfits. Oh, Meghan needs to stop dressing like a Hollywood star. Headlines like that. Why? Well, we know why. Look at the pictures from this wedding and the way they be dressing. For some strange reason, these royals can't find it within them to just dress and look modern. They have to have this weird Mary Poppins cosplay kind of look. Even the men, by the way, not just the women. Nobody seems to be asking why Kate is not supporting British fashion, even as labels linked to her wardrobe have struggled or shut down. The Vampire's Wife, worn by Kate and once described as a royal favourite, closed in 2024. Eponine London, another Kate-favoured British label, announced it would close after its autumn-winter 2025 collection. Seraphine, the maternity brand long associated with Kate, also stopped trading, reportedly leaving most of its staff redundant. So I think it's fair to ask, why does the champion British fashion standard only seem to appear when Meghan wears American designers? Meghan an American. Insane. This isn't about, banning Kate from wearing foreign designers. Royal Fashion is supposed to promote but if Royal Fashion is supposed to promote British industry names, then that standard should apply across the board for current working royals. Or was that just another excuse to bully Meghan? Remember, Harry wrote in Spare that Kate believed Meghan wanted to steal her fashion contacts. Meanwhile, Kate stole or tried to steal Meghan's entire fashion personality, only for Natasha Archer to expose her as Natasha was walking out the door. I also find it baffling that, we can't get Victoria Beckham or Stella McCartney to put together some outfits for her. Like, what's going on? And then you had Natasha Archer, her former stylist, being caught out following Meghan's fashion connections, even though my working theory is that she did that on purpose to expose Kate. That's still my working theory. Because there's no way that Natasha Archer thought we wouldn't pick up on that. There's no way that Natasha Archer hasn't seen our discussions on her copy Kate nonsense. Now Natasha Archer is gone, and Kate's still copying Meghan, still mimicking her looks, still looking at wearing the exact same brands that Meghan wears. The thing is, Kate could have had something unique, but that would require effort, strategy, and follow through. None of which seem to be happening, not just with Kate's outfit choices, because to be quite frank, that's the least important thing here. With Kate's work, I really wouldn't care less what Kate wore if she A, wasn't copying Meghan, and B, actually bothered to be impactful and consistent with her work. But for sure, Kate needs a clearer fashion vision. One that doesn't keep inviting Meghan did it first comparisons. Because it's just weird for a woman of Kate's age to still be looking over the pond and looking at what her sister-in-law is doing. It's just very strange behavior. One last thing that I wanted to finish with. Well, actually, no. I think I might do this on the next podcast. I think I'll do that on the next podcast. Let's go to your comments. Maggie, you said Harry have never had it so good living in Cali, and they think he's gonna go back. Indeed, go back to what? Let's have a look. Helen, you said Harry and Meghan know the full story about this family. Yeah, and they've been very, very gracious in only telling a fraction. I don't think we know the half of it or the quarter of it. But they better not continue to push Harry. Otherwise, I think we're going to get that spare part too. Oh, 100% Marilyn. Trying to destiny swap with Meghan. The problem is, when you have someone like Meghan who is so anointed, it's almost impossible to destiny swap. Destiny swapping an anointed one is very, very difficult. Like, you have to be a grandmaster witch or warlock to be able to destiny swap with an anointed one. Some people manage to do it. I think that someone like Diddy, I think he's a master level warlock. Destiny swap with Tupac and Biggie. I think there's some people women in the industry who effectively destiny swapped with Aaliyah. I think Camilla destiny swapped with Diana. The problem is that with all of those examples, you never really fully become that person. That's the thing. So I think with Kate, it was more attempting of a destiny block than a destiny swap. Because even if you manage to get the person out of the way, you don't necessarily ever fully embody that person. Like, Diana was pushed out of the way, but Camilla has never fully embodied everything that Diana is. Thank you so much for your donation, Kevin Sims. You said, do you think Meghan will come to the UK in July with Harry? And if so, will she wear British brands? I honestly don't know. I think the issue of will Meghan come to the UK is 100% up in the air. 100% up in the air. I would be shocked if she did come. But given all the circumstances, it's very likely that she won't. But either way, I think it's very up in the air. I think if she did, it would probably be a quick in, quick out. And very unannounced. Mind you, I think if she did come, she might even be safer to come, given that this is happening in Birmingham. We'll see. We will see. I'll be very surprised. Even more surprised, absolute shock of my life, if the kids came. I'm telling you, these royal reporters in the palace, I hope they have the strongest blood pressure medicine available that week. Put that blood pressure medicine on standby. They could shock us, guys. They could bring the kids. It will be a shock enough if Meghan comes. If they bring the kids, my damn. Whether or not Charles wants to see those children, I get the feeling that they would want at least one meeting with those kids before Charles departs this earth. Just about managed to get it before the Queen departed this earth for the Jubilee. Sean Jones, I don't think she would go over to the UK and give the tabloids a boon. What? I think that the atmosphere would be very different for Meghan in Birmingham. I think if it was London, I would say, oh, out of the question. I'm only even floating the idea of Meghan possibly coming because it's Birmingham. Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Tiger Mummy. I appreciate you. He went to America and didn't try to see the kids. That is true. But it's not like the Queen was going out of her way to protect Meghan when she was pregnant with Archie. Or, you know, when Harry and Meghan stepped down. Like she was going out of her way to protect them then. But they still made sure that the Queen saw the kids for the Jubilee. You know, Harry has said, my conscience is clear. And I think the reason his conscience is clear is because on his part, he's always tried and seems to continue to try. And they won't be able to rewrite history because Harry has shown over and over again that he's tried. Okie dokie. I think we can wrap things up there. Appreciate you as always, folks. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe button on your way out. And links in bio if you want to support the channel. All my other projects, appreciate it. We'll have some updates on you for that. On that very soon. But please enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever of it is left. Have a great week. And I will catch up with you tomorrow, folks. Ciao.